Hey there, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. Welcome. In this video, we're going to do another Why is Everyone Obsessed with this tool? In this case, though, I know the answer, and usually I don't, and that's why we spend so much time going through all the features and everything so I can really understand why this thing is so beloved, but I have the answer with this one, and it's because I have been using it for half a decade. I have seen how other people use it. I have seen it used on bedroom studio productions, on films. I've seen it used all over the place. It's RX by iZotope. And before we jump in, I have to ask politely, please subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me. You subscribe, you hit that bell. That way you get notified when new content goes up. It just means a lot to me to have a lot of subscribers, an audience that's growing. I can continue showing stuff to, responding to. If you want to talk to me about something you want me to cover or review or talk about or answer, you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm there. It's Manchestermusicofficial. I'm at Vodkastpodcaster at gmail.com. That's electronic mail on the internet. And I'm at Twitter. It's at Jeff Manch. Many ways to get in touch with me. Leave a comment. I always respond either with a like or love, or I'll respond directly with a comment to your comment. It means a lot. Okay, let's just back out. So RX is one of those tools that I think started out as a restoration post-production tool, but I think, as you'll see, it can be used for anything that is problematic in audio. And it also gives you this really amazing visual canvas to see what you're getting rid of. So it's a bit like a photo editor for your audio. And in this video, I want to tailor some of the examples that I'm showing so that they are specific to music, because this is Manchester music, but make no mistake, you can use this for post-production, for sample library construction or creation, for field recording cleanup, all that stuff. And hopefully by the end of this video, you will understand what makes this thing so special, because it really is. So without further ado, let's hop in. This is RX9 Advanced. I'm on a Mac. And the first thing I'll say is that RX is a little bit like learning a new language or a really complicated looking instrument. It is different in how you approach audio. Usually you deal with a waveform, which looks something like that. When you are in RX, you're dealing with a spectrogram. It's audio represented using some special math. And when you look into a spectrogram, you get a lot of kind of information that you're not used to seeing and not used to interpreting. My advice to people would be, RX is one of those things that I think you should really learn how to make the most of, because it's a little bit of a competitive advantage for you, I think, to be able to say, not only can I make music or record it or record other people making music, but I know how to fix problems. So while it might seem really daunting and scary to work in audio in this kind of environment, really allow yourself to be vulnerable and open to discovering audio in this way, and familiarizing yourself with it in this way, because once you get to know this program, I think it can open some doors for you and just be someone that other people want to work with, because you can speak RX or play RX. So to that end, let me welcome you into this program, a program I know and love very well. There's still things I'm learning about it, but I know it well enough to be able to answer the question of why is everyone obsessed with it. And the way we should start is just with what we are looking at. So when I toggled over here on the bottom left, over here we have the waveform, or we have the spectrogram. There is a lot of information in this visualization of audio, and it's one that we're familiar with. But there's even more in this one, and we can see things in this one that we just can't see in this one. So you can blend it so that you see both, or you can have it skewed so that you see more of one, or only the other. It's up to you. I will say that 9 times out of 10, I am 100% to the right here in the spectrogram. The spectrogram represents audio X, Y, left, right, up, down, north, south. Left to right, we have time, okay? So we start here at, if I go all the way to the beginning of this audio file, 0.0:00, all the way to 2 minutes, 55 seconds, probably ending around 3 minutes. I get information about where I am based on this little box here, which gives you information about start, end, and frequency range, low, high, and range. So if I were to drag my cursor over, my selection started at 217, ended at 218, and I can see that I've got frequencies and a frequency range low 0 all the way up to 22050. So that is just a way to kind of orient yourself. Information over here based on the things that you're selecting. Time goes left to right. Bottom to top is frequency, starting with 0 hertz all the way to the maximum, frequency cycle that you've sampled. In this case, a little bit above 20,000 hertz. Time left to right, frequency bottom to top. Brightness, things that are brighter in the spectrogram correspond to amplitude and loudness. So my eye is kind of, interested in things that are like little hotspots. So right now, I know, just because I know this program well, even if I didn't know this audio file, I'd know that this was a vocal because I'm seeing harmonics, I'm seeing fundamental frequencies, I'm seeing little bursts, and those bursts of brightness are things I'm interested in investigating further. I have a brighter kind of frequency profile here of this harmonic. That's interesting to me. I have these little bursts here on the bottom. I wonder what they could be. I think I know what they are, but I just want to kind of orient you a little bit to what you're seeing and stuff like that. And let me turn off the gain there. Just Command G turns the gain off. Gain trace. So that is what we see in this window. It's M over here for mono. If I had a stereo file or a surround file, we'd see, LCR or whatever, or left and right, L and R. In this case, just have a mono file. It's a vocal, so it says mono. We have another map up here, which shows us, a kind of zoomed out view of the audio file. I can click and drag to move around like this and go in between different sections of time. I could pinch this in if I wanted to and just do that. Or 2 fingers on the trackpad. I could swipe left with 2 fingers and go left. Just watch this little waveform overview. Or I could go right. If I want to zoom in, 2 fingers up, I zoom in, get closer, 2 fingers back, zoom out like that. Okay. So that is the spectrogram in a very kind of quick nutshell. And the way that I bring in audio is just by dragging and dropping into the spectrogram, or I can use the import controls and bring in an audio file. I think everyone will kind of figure that out. Now, I want to say before we get too deep that because this channel is Manchester Music, I'm going to focus on music problems, but RX is capable of correcting, repairing, overcoming, navigating challenges that aren't exclusive to music. You can do restoration, post-production, restore field recordings, you name it. Okay. So on the right, we have all of the modules that you can use to solve problems. And you can see that there's quite a few modules in the advanced version, comes with a lot. When you look really closely, you'll see that some of these icons look like the problem that the module is trying to solve. So for example, deplosive, we see a burst of something come out of some guy's little mouth. For de-rustle, rustling noises. It's not getting rid of leaf noises, but rustling like rustling leaves, right? It's for lavalier rustling when it brushes against clothing and things like that. So that is a way to kind of orient yourself with like, which module should I use? Take a look at the icon and maybe that will give you a hint as to what problem it was designed to solve. Guitar denoise, mouth declick, music rebalance. You're seeing 2 little notes getting balanced. So anyway, just to give you a little insight into why this is organized in the way that it is. And there's different columns too. We have repair as one column. I could collapse that down. Utility as another column. Phase, resampling, signal generator, gain, EQ. And then we have another column, which is more metering. So measurements, spectrogram, waveform statistics. I could open up waveform stats, one of the most underrated modules in RX, in my opinion. And it'll give me all kinds of information about amplitude, momentary loudness, all in LUFS, any overages, any clipping history. Really, really, really helpful. So not just, getting rid of problems and stuff like that. Let me uncollapse these so we bring everything back. So how do I actually solve problems in RX? Well, we know that RX is an extremely visual application, and it's a little bit like a Photoshop or a photo editor. So if you see something, you can use some of the selection tools to then get rid of it or minimize it or attenuate, which just means to make quieter, that specific thing. There's tools for you to use to refine your selections, make a big selection quickly or a small selection and really fine tune that small selection. And those tools are all down here to the right of this instant process column. So you can see that we have a time frequency selection tool. So if I click this, I can manipulate time and frequency with my selection, or I can, make sure the time and frequency gets included. If I hit this one, this is just going to be time. So, can't drag down, only time, only left and right. And this one is just frequency, right? Just like that. And of course, I've got quick commands to really get to those, quickly. There's a lasso tool, which, I can draw a circle. It joins the circle, does that. There's a brush tool. I can go Command B, 2 fingers up, 2 fingers down to refine the size of the brush. So go like that, right? And there's a magic wand tool, and this is really cool because what it'll do is take a look at the pronounced audio event that's visually represented and hopefully map onto it such that you don't have to draw with any of the selection tools. So for example, this looks like a fundamental frequency. Click on this and it's made a pretty nice selection of just that harmonic event. So that is what the selection tools do here. Here you've got some more tools to kind of zoom in, zoom out, or go way back. You've got a grab and drag tool, which you can use. If I make my selection a bit more narrow, we can grab and drag like that. To be honest with you, though, I am so used to working with a trackpad that I just kind of move my 2 fingers up and down, left and right, and get what I need and go where I need to go. A couple more things I want to call out before we start to address problems. We have an assistant here. iZotope is known for building assistive technology that is aimed to solve problems, get you started, get you over the hump quickly if you're a beginner or even if you're a pro and you just want a second opinion. And the same is true here in RX. So we have an assistant that can tackle dialogue problems, music problems, or maybe field recording doesn't really fit into music or dialogue. And what you would do is, say, hey, this is a music problem. Select music, do start analysis. It's going to go through and look for the following: clipping, clicks, hum, noise. And then it'll tell you what it's found and give you a couple different repair scenarios and options for, like, do you want to go with this one, this one, this one? And you can also scale the intensity of the processing if you found that one of the options for repair was a bit too soft or maybe not aggressive enough. So once we get to the end here, it's going to generate, those previews for us. And in just a moment, I'll be able to show you what that looks like. So we have the original. Don't mean to ignore. And then we can go over here. And if we hover over, we see it found mouth clicks, noise, and it also used the gain module. If I go over here, declick and spectral denoise, a couple different options, right? These are different options. Voice declick, voice denoise, and I can go and preview these against the original. And, or I can start over or whatever. The other thing I want to call out is that we have this history panel here, which will show you the history of all the moves that you've made as you go about tackling and cleaning your audio. So you can always go back and forth in time and kind of see how far you've come and how many things that you've done. So you're not, without context when you're, knee deep in some audio problem and wondering, wait, how did I start out? Have I used that module yet? Okay, so let's actually get our hands dirty and start to talk about how to actually tackle problems in RX. So again, because this is a music channel, I want to focus on music, but hopefully you have a pretty good understanding of the general controls here in this brave new environment, this brand new environment. So let's talk about what we see. Well, I see a couple things. I see harmonics. I hear someday someone singing. I get so turned around. I don't know how to love you. I see this line running through from left to right here. And I think what that is hum. And this is very normal. You have a 60 or 50 cycle hum depending on where you are in the world, or maybe some gear that you're using, ground loops. Anyway, I see a hum. I can't hear it that well, but I know that let's say I want to use a compressor on this vocal. I want to accentuate it. If I don't get rid of that hum now, when I add the stuff like compression and stuff, it's going to bring that hum up and all the other problems associated with this vocal and make that issue much more apparent. So I want to first talk about how I was able to see this so easily. One of the things I love about the spectrogram is I can really quickly make changes to better see things and perceive problems. So you'll notice that I made a move and now it looks a bit different. We still see that hum, but it's reduced in size over here. And that's because I went back and I toggled the spectrogram view so that it would show us, a MEL view, MEL frequency spacing instead of extended log. This MEL view is the default view. And with it, we see no zero here. We just see 100, 200, 300, 400 hertz, right? Time is left to right, frequency bottom to top. But I want to get a better sense of what's happening in the low end. So what I do is I'll go over here, frequency scale, and I'll change it to extended log. Now when I do that, whoa, way more information is visible. I no longer see 0 to 100. I see 0, 5, 10 cycles, 20 cycles, 30 cycles, 50 cycles, 70 cycles. And I can perceive a lot more in the low end. And that is why I do that, just so I have a bit more real estate, visual real estate. So how would we tackle this issue? Well, first, I want to call out some cool tools that you can use to hear what you're seeing. And one of them that I use a lot is this frequency selection tool. So we have some transport controls over here.
I get so turned around.
I can press stop and it stops it, play, and it plays it. I can loop, and I can also play only what I've selected. And that's really cool because now I can use a quick command R, time frequency selection tool. I can select this, and if I press this, I'll hear everything.
Some days I get so turned around.
But if I press this, I can hear only what's in my selection. So we should only hear the hum. And I'm going to turn it up in post so you can really hear this hum. Now, the other thing I'm seeing is harmonics of what I assume are the hum. It's pretty faint, but you can see these lines here going left to right above. And those, I believe, are the harmonics of that hum. And one of the cool things is I can use a selection tool. Like, let me use the little wand tool. I've selected that. It's carved out a little patch here on either side of the vocal. If I press Shift and click again, what it's done is it's used some math to estimate where the harmonics of that frequency are based on the fundamental frequency, which we've selected with that wand tool. So I know it's a little tough to see, but these lines actually correspond really neatly with the harmonics of the hum. And you only have to look on the right or left side of my selection because it's a little hard to see them now that we have a selection made here to see that, here's one selection that was made and there's a line. Another one up top, there's a line. Another one here, there's a line. So it's pretty smart about how to, very comprehensively remove the hum, at least, or select it, right? So let's just back out and let's use a tool to get rid of the hum. Now, what might we use, right? Well, hum. Where's hum? Do I see a get rid of hum or remove hum tool? I see dialog contour, whatever. Oh, here's one, de-hum. And we see like a circle with a cross going through to be like, I'm the thing that gets rid of hum. So anyway, and this is very like kindergarten, but a lot of people are scared of this program. You don't have to be. So I'll click de-hum, and here's how I would get rid of this. I would select a clean patch here, like there. And then I would go over to, I make sure I'm in dynamic because it's just better. I press learn. I turn all my bands up, and now you can see we have this cut here, and this is telling us where it's going to impose an EQ cut essentially to get rid of the hum. And it's also noticed some other little hums up here further up. I can scale the sensitivity. I can scale the amount of bands that are going to be introduced. I could scale the frequency cue of how narrow, how sharp those cuts are, will be. I'll just leave it at default. Double clicking returns everything to default. And now what I'll do is just make a selection here and go render. And now it's going to run it. So what do you notice? Well, I saw it, I circled it, I showed you the selection tools that, there's where it is. And then I used dehum and now it's gone. And I have that confirmation that it's gone because I can't see that very pronounced thick line at the bottom anymore. Before, Command Z, right? And here's after. There it is. Now for everyone at home, I'm going to crank this up so you can really hear the hum, and we'll go before and after. And I'll shut my mouth because some people say I talk too much during the before and after. So, all right, let's bring this up. So here is before.
Some days I get so turned around, I don't know how to love you.
And here's after.
Some days I get so turned around, I don't know how to love you.
So that is how we would see and then go and use a module to get rid of a problem. One of the things about working in this environment is, again, I couldn't see the hum if I was over here in the waveform. I mean, you don't see a hum. Where's the hum here? But when I flip over, boom, now I can see it and I can do something about it. If my ears are really good and I've got it loud, I can probably hear it in the waveform view. But anyway, but the other thing that happens when you're in this spectrogram view is you just start to hear things a bit differently because you have all this information in front of you. And when you start to clear problems away and get rid of like hums and stuff, other problems that might have been there are now more apparent because they're kind of unmasked once you start carving away at problems and layers of issues. And one thing that I hear after I got rid of that hum is there's some clicks, there's some mouth clicks that I hear on this singer. And I placed a marker where I'm really hearing them. So take a listen with me and see if you can hear where these clicks are.
I get so turned around, I don't know how to.
One more time.
So turned around, I don't know.
There's some clicks that are kind of hanging out in this area here. Let's use that play frequency selection to see if we can really hear them. So I can hear them, and I know that that's a problem that I want to take care of. Why do I want to take care of clicks? Well, the same reason I want to take care of hum. When I bring in compression and stuff that brings the body of the audio up, all those problems come up with it, especially a compressor is going to bring those clicks right to the ear of the listener. So what would I use, right? Going back to this. Well, I see, okay, here's D-click. That's kind of cool. That's probably going to get my problem solved. But I want to go down a bit more because there's also a mouth D-click. And the algorithm here was designed specifically for mouth clicks as opposed to this guy, which was a bit more for all-purpose clicks and things like that, mechanical noises, that sort of thing. So for those who haven't heard the clicks yet, I'm going to do something that will really highlight them for you. I'll make a selection and I'll press output clicks only. Now it's going to solo just the detected clicks. It's not getting rid of anything. It's just shining a bit of a flashlight on those clicks. So when I press preview, we'll only hear them.
I get so.
Okay, did you hear them? Here's another really cool thing I can do. With output clicks only selected, I can press render, and now it's going to render everything that isn't the clicks and just leave the clicks behind. So here's just the clicks. Kind of gross, right? So what I'll do is I'll uncheck this box. And again, whatever settings you want, I always go with default and then tweak it from there. In fact, you can get your settings and then go preview to hear what it's going to sound like when it runs the processing. The quality is sometimes a little bit lower, but it's a good way to make sure that your settings are going to work. So I'll press preview and let's see if the clicks are removed.
It's so turned around, I don't know how.
Awesome. So I'm comfortable, confident. I'll press this. I'll press render. Now here's before.
I get so turned around, I don't know.
And here's after.
I get so turned around, I don't know.
Way better. Clicks are gone. I have the confidence now that when I use a compressor on this vocal, those clicks aren't going to come up, just the beautiful sounds of Brian Fisher. And in fact, one thing that people often do is they'll just use mouth declick like this and just press render. And it's going to go through the entire file and get rid of all those clicks. And you can do that two ways. You can either hit Command A, and then everything will be selected. But if you're zoomed out and you haven't made a single selection, RX will interpret that as, oh, you want everything to be selected anyway. So you can go about it two ways. You press render, it's going to go through the whole file without you having to make that, Apple A selection. So now remember, on these little islands of vocals, we've only been working on this guy. So we do have some issues still with this one, where hum is concerned. And because my hum is still selected from the last time I made that choice, I'll just press render again. I don't need to hit Command A. I just haven't made a selection. It's going to go through this whole file and get rid of all of those hums. There we go. That's really nice. Now, one more thing that I'm noticing is another sound. And just in the fun of education, I'm not going to tell you what it is I'm hearing. Let's see if you can hear it. I'll play this passage back.
Please don't let me scare you away. Please don't let me go. Please don't let me get in the way. Please.
So hopefully what you heard when I was doing that was the sound of plosives, bursts of air hitting the capsule of the microphone and causing a bit of a clip. And again, I keep saying this, but if you have a compressor, those things are going to come up tremendously in level. And they're also going to be the thing that the compressor first reacts to, because the compressor, depending on where your sidechain input is set, is very sensitive to low-end information. What do we use to get rid of the plosives? Well, I am going to go over here and I see de-plosive. Perfect. That's exactly what I need. You can start with the default setting over here. Default, sensitivity, strength, whatever. Just leave them there and hit preview to see if those plosives are reduced before committing your settings.
Please don't let me scare you away. Please don't let me go. Please.
Awesome. I have a significant reduction in that burst of air hitting the capsule, but I don't have a reduction in the low end and the body of Brian's voice. Just those plosives and those bursts are getting reduced. So what I might do to be really pedantic here, and just because we're hanging out in RX, is call out the fact that, the default frequency limit cutoff. So like I'm going to look for everything plosive wise from 200 hertz and below is set at 200 cycles. However, remember I showed you those settings over here, or settings, this kind of legend of the map, if you will, that shows you all the inputs of your selection. So I've got a range here. This is going from 51 seconds to 117. It's a 25-second length thing, and 0 to 2250, right? Or 22050. What I'm noticing is that these little bursts, they don't go all the way up here and connect to these harmonics. They kind of go all the way up and then they stop, especially this one. There's a bit of a break here. And if I leave my frequency limit at 200 and go like that and press render, cool, that will have gotten rid of it. But I'm doing some deplosive work, if you will, up in this like 175 territory, because again, 0 all the way to 200. And the plosive is like at its most aggressive here, right at around, if I circle this, really it stops at about 100 or 111 and doesn't really, this thing here, that's just the vocal. So maybe I don't want to capture or process everything from 200 below. So what I might do after using the spectrogram to view this information is just bring this down to like 100. And now I'm saying my new cutoff is 100 cycles and below. Don't touch stuff above 100 cycles, because there might be some good stuff in there that isn't a plosive, that's just like richness in Brian's voice that I want to leave. So go here, press render. I'm sure the result is great. In fact, if I want to compare the result between what 200 would sound like and what 100 would sound like as different cutoff values, here's one thing you can do. I can click like this. I double click to bring this back to 200 to default, and I'll press compare. So these are our first settings. And now I'll go over here back to the original audio and make another one and compare the 100 settings like that and press compare. So settings 1 is 200 and settings 2 is 100. And again, we're getting in the weeds here, but honestly, if you're working on a film or a project where every little decision matters and you don't want to overprocess, and this is going to be brought up so people can hear it in a movie theater or something like that, these little differences in metrics and values are important, because one might give you something, awesome, but the noise is still a little bit there, while the other one might give you something even more awesome and there's no noise left, but there's a garbliness, there's an artifacting or something going on. And you have to make the decision, well, do I want the noise completely removed at the cost of intelligibility and wobbliness, or do I want to get a little bit of reduction? There's a little bit of noise still in there, but the intelligibility is still really crisp in the vocal or guitar or whatever. This is why, people in Hollywood use this program, and this is why folks have made it so customizable for you to be able to hear this stuff. So I can preview, here's the original, press preview.
Please.
I can preview here at 200 cycles.
Please.
Or 100.
Please.
To my ears, 100 is a bit more transparent. The plosive is gone, but I still have a bit of soul from Brian's voice, as opposed to 200, in my view, which just sounds like I'm taking too much of the low end away. So I could select 100 and be like, awesome, render that out for me, please. Cool, it's done that. So I could back up and, for example, just undo my settings and go back here and then just, run deplosive across this entire file. And they're all gone. We have a nice kind of clean file. So once again, we'll do before and after. Here's before.
Please don't let me scare you away. Please don't let me go.
And here's after.
Please don't let me scare you away. Please don't let me go.
So again, in keeping the music kind of focus, we had a vocal, right? We got rid of some hums, some mouth clicks, some plosives. I want to show you another module that is used a lot in music to clear up problems, and that's guitar denoise over here. So what guitar denoise is really good at is attenuating, not removing, but attenuating a lot of guitar squeaks. So have a listen to this sample, and I think you'll hear a pretty good representation of some kind of nasty squeaks as the player moves between the frets. Sometimes the strings are old, the fingers are dry, and they're a little bit more strident, those squeaks, than they would be otherwise. One more time. So there's a couple things here. It's a little noisy. There's some background noise, not a big deal. But what I'm really focused on are those squeaks. Specifically, this one here and these ones here. There's just a bit of there's a cricket in them. I don't care about the sound of the strings, the fingers on the strings. It's just there's a little cricket kind of sound that I want to get rid of. So I pull up a tool like guitar denoise, and I would go over here and I would make a selection, and then I go over here to squeak. You can also get rid of amp hum and buzz, or you can get rid of the hard pluck sounds from when you're picking, or the squeaks. And when I say get rid of, again, I just mean control. That's all I mean, is control those sounds. So a couple options here. Duration. Are the squeaks long or are they short? In my opinion, the first 4 squeaks here are a bit longer. And these ones are a bit quicker. right? So what I might do is make my selection, press long. I could preview if I want to. I'm pretty confident. I'll leave my settings here at default, sensitivity 3, reduction to 4, and press render. Now let's have a listen to those long squeaks before. And here's after. So a little bit cleaner. Again, the whole squeak isn't attenuated, just the kind of harshness and strident aspects of it. And for these short guys over here, what I'll do is make a selection and go short instead of long and press render. So here's before. And here's after. Especially on this first one, I mean, that is so harsh. That and after, much more under control. The other thing I want to call out was just how, even if you have an audio example that has a lot of reverb and it's a guitar that's kind of embedded in a larger production with time-based effects and stuff, you can still use guitar denoise to get rid of the squeaks. So for example, have a listen. So really it's these two. It's this one here and this one. Again, I don't want to get rid of them. I just want to control them. Guitar denoise. We'll leave it on its short setting or duration setting. Press render. And look at that. This one and this one gone. Here's before. And here's after. So if I was to do this, again, going back to that compressor example, bring in a compressor, listen to how loud those squeaks are. So I've undone my processing. I'm going to put that same compressor on and listen for those two kind of harsh, strident moments. Those are crazy. So let me bring my process back in there. I processed it. Here's that compressor again after we controlled the squeaks. So the squeaks are still there, but they're less hitting us in the face. And that's the point. The physicality of someone playing guitar is really cool. And I don't want to get rid of that per se. I just want to, I just want to control the squeak sounds. So those are two very musical examples of how you can remove and control for problems on a vocal and on a guitar. There's one more thing that RX is really well known for, and that is denoising, especially denoising very complicated problems. So for example, this guitar track is a bit of a challenge because we have a lot of harmonics here and we have, see this kind of dusty, shady, sandy side. This is, this just represents broadband kind of, think white noise or an air conditioner or a window open with just steady state noise coming in. So how would we get rid of this noise? Well, there's a couple different ways to do it. I could go to, Dialogue Isolate, which is a machine learning tool that has, neural networks built in and stuff to analyze the audio, spit out a great result, get rid of the noise, keep just what you want. But the problem with Dialogue Isolate is we have an acoustic guitar example, but this is meant for dialogue. So we're kind of out of luck. There's a voice denoise over here. Again, same thing, a different kind of denoising tool, but it's meant for voice. So I would use spectral denoise. And what I'm going to show you is a kind of advanced technique process that is meant to allow you to really refine your selections and be very specific and nitty gritty and granular about what you're getting rid of and keeping. And I think this really shows off the power of a tool like RX, where there's a lot of companies now, and you can actually use some of the modules in here as plugins where you just kind of put the plugin on the track, hit a button, and then it kind of gets rid of things. But you'll find that sometimes automatic or one-pass processing is just not enough, and you want to kind of use the tools, and you want to really get your hands dirty with some knowledge that you have on how to use this tool to get rid of, some of the noise here. So for example, I could use this in adaptive mode, which just means it's going to listen to the body of the audio and listen to the noise profile and the tonal profile. The tonal is the guitar, the noise is the background stuff, and adapt. But that might not get me what I want. Have a listen. I've engaged it in adaptive mode. I press preview. It's not bad, but it's, I hear some kind of wonkiness. So let me show you before. And here's after. So what I like to do sometimes is get a fingerprint of noise using some of the selection tools, feed it the fingerprint of the noise, and then subtract the noise from the tonal stuff with that fingerprint using a tool like Spectral Denoise. So how would I go about doing that? Well, this is going to be a little bit laborious here, but I'm going to use some selection tools right away. I hit R to get time and frequency selection going. And let me make sure that this is just noise and not, something else. Cool. Now I'll use some tools that I have here that will allow me to kind of open the aperture, if you will, and go kind of in between the harmonics of the notes so I can just get, nice kind of fingerprint of the noise. And what I've done is I've hit Option and dragged up with 2 fingers to extend the ranges here. I could go further up and make some more selections like this. Drag this up so I can go even further. And you can see what I'm doing is I'm just looking for anywhere we don't have these very clear lines, because that is tonal information that I want to retain, but I want to build a noise profile out of the noise, but I don't really have a clean, 10 seconds of room tone or anything to inform spectral repair, but I do have these guys here. And there's some, things get a bit more faint here. There's actually some really good stuff here, which I might steal a little bit of just to inform the fingerprint, I keep calling it, of noise that I'm going to send in. Okay, so this is pretty good. Let's get a bit more from there. Let's see how far I can go up here. Okay, that's pretty good. Bring this back down. There's some stuff in here. So I'll kind of zoom out. Cool. Hopefully this will make our lives a little easier when we're trying to feed this guy a profile. So what I'll do now is I'll press Learn. And what it's telling me is I still need some information in the low end because I don't have as representative a sample as I need. So what I might do is just go back in here and see if I can capture more low end to build a more complete profile. It looks like from 100 to 1K, there's still a lot of stuff missing. So let me just work to build that profile a bit more. Again, just noise. I don't want to feed it anything, tonal, if you will. And one thing I'm doing that I didn't really explain is by holding Shift, a little plus button emerges, and that lets me make, I guess, a contiguous. I always get confused if it's contiguous or non-contiguous selections. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm still getting some stuff here. 300. Let me widen this a little bit more to get more stuff. So you see what we're doing, right? We're just trying to get a sample of what's in between the harmonics, the noise stuff, so that I can use that information to have RX subtract the noise. How about that? Let's learn that. A little bit more is what's needed. So I could go and get more here. It looks like from, let's say, 50 to about, I don't know, 500, 300 or so. So 50 to 300. So right in this pocket here is what it's saying it needs more of from me. So welcome to the life of someone who works with RX a lot. This is a really extreme edge case where, you wouldn't have probably anyone ever doing work this way, but I think this is a pretty good example of how flexible, the tool can be. Now, one thing we might run into is the fact that in some of these sections here, I'm just selecting noise, but there's going to be tones over those noise a little bit later and elsewhere throughout this process. And that might hurt the intelligibility of a broad, fully processed pass that I might do. But I'm just having fun at this point. I want to see if it'll make a difference at all. So I'm not too worried about hurting this guy because we're just having a good time here. Okay, cool. So it's told us that the noise profile is not captured at some frequencies. What it can do is complete it though. So let me see what happens if I press yes. It's made a more complete kind of picture. Cool. So now what I'll do is press render and see what that looks like. So here's before we did any of that work. And here's just the noise. I'm going to output just the noise. And here is after. Once again, before. After. So again, it's a very extreme case. I don't know anyone who would actually want you to go in between the particles like Ant-Man and get rid of the noise from this thing. But I just wanted to show you the kind of flexibility and the way that you can really get in there, get your hands dirty and clear away noise and just go with a canvas and kind of paint things away. Hopefully this was helpful to you, and hopefully this is demystified and helped to make this tool a bit more approachable. If you want to see more use cases about what makes RX so special, and I haven't done a good job here and you need more, let me know, or head to iZotope's YouTube because there's a bajillion videos of people using this tool. So let's go to the other side and say goodbye. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Did you make it to the end? If you did, I'm proud of you. And I want to know what you think. Leave comments, email, all that stuff. I let you know earlier. It means the world to me. And I'll see you in the next one, and really hope that this tool was helpful for you. And now you know RX a little bit better, and you can maybe speak a couple words or play a couple chords or scales of RX, because it is a kind of daunting thing to get into. But hopefully this helped. And I'll see you in the next one.